All right, everybody. Welcome to Sports Card Culture Podcast, Episode 2. Taping. Or 3.
Kind of.
We'll talk about that in a minute. We're taping October 13th, 2020. Who's winning against the Bills? Titans?
Yeah, Derrick Henry just put Josh Norman on his back. It's pretty sick clip, actually.
So, now, here's the question. Are the Bills going to come back? They should.
Interestingly enough, Josh Allen's literally making himself probably a top 2 front runner for the MVP right now.
Yes.
I mean, he's had 2 4-touchdown games. I mean,
Russell Wilson would be the.
Yeah, Russell Wilson. I mean, probably Mahomes has still got to be in that conversation. I mean,
yeah.
Still, it's still a long way to go. We're only week 5.
I think so.
I mean,
because I'm 2 and 3.
Well, and part of it is with COVID, there's going to be games. We don't know how many games are going to be missed. Like, this game's being played on Tuesday night. We're filming on Tuesday.
That's why I didn't realize
it's
that
so
the
weird.
game wasn't even going on.
So Wednesday tomorrow is the waiver for all the fantasy teams. Normally it's Tuesday into Wednesday. Now it's Wednesday into Thursday, and then you literally have a game that Thursday night. Anyway, fun stuff.
Nuts.
So why don't you tell everyone listening why this is episode 2
Okay,
and a half.
So we're going to talk a little bit about starting a podcast, which I knew nothing about. And so how does this go down? We taped the first one.
With the help of our awesome producer.
Who, by the way, is amateur. I think that would be fair to say, as we all are. Which I'm okay with it. Like, everything I know now, I didn't know at some point.
Yep, he's growing in this thing with us.
Yeah, killing it. And we couldn't figure out how to integrate, like, the video and the audio together. And so, fortunately, a customer in the shop is a broadcasting major, Jeff Liss. I hope that's the right last name.
That's convenient.
Yeah, I should have wrote that.
No, but to have a customer.
Oh, yeah, he came in. He's like, oh, yeah. I said, oh, yeah, I'm trying to do a podcast. And he goes, oh, I'm a broadcasting major at U of M. If you need help, I definitely probably need some help. Had some delays. How long did that take? Almost 2 weeks? A little over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And he was finally able to get over here. Apparently, we had the wrong camera. So we weren't able to integrate the video.
So last week, though, John and I get done with this epic. Well, so our producer hits the
play button,
takes off for the night because we started late.
Yeah.
And John and I get into this thing, man. It was awesome.
It was a good conversation.
It was a great conversation. We'll maybe some of those topics will be revisited at some point.
Sure.
And we get done and we walk over to the computer to hit stop, and there's a blank screen.
There was nothing recording to hit stop, and he hit play. I know he did. Like, we talked about it for like 10 minutes. I'm like, you hit play. He's like, yeah. I'm like, I know because I saw you hit play. So I don't know what happened. So now we found out why we need the producer in the room. Between
you and I, like, what would, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rank our, like, technological skills at?
1.
Combined? So we're like 0.5? I think I give myself like a 2, maybe.
Oh, combined.
Like,
I give myself a 1.
PSA 2 is a pretty bad card, John.
Like, I can download software and kind of figure it out. But I'm probably like at a 2. Like, it's not good.
I think between us, we maybe can get to like a 5.
Yeah, so it's not good. So then, we have a lost episode out there, which we don't think there's a file of. And we had a good conversation. I enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of fun stuff. I can't even remember all of it.
There was a couple pieces where I'm really sad we don't have a recording of it.
But maybe we just needed to grow through that, John. Maybe this is all about the learning experience. Maybe for those of you guys listening, you've been through something like that where you're like, wow, that was a waste, and then you realize years later, like, well, actually wasn't a waste. Like we've had this conversation too of like, even in business, compensation isn't always the measure of success.
Correct.
Right? It's what did I learn through? Like the book Failing Forward. I think we mentioned that at one point. Like, and this isn't even. It wasn't. I didn't even view it as a failure, and yet it's also something that can move you forward in your process of whatever it is, as a business owner, as an athlete, as a musician, whatever you're doing. Like, there's things where you're like, oh, like even some of the injuries this week, like in football, like Dak Prescott. Some of you guys probably saw that horrendous ankle injury. Like, you think, oh my gosh, but you hear guys who have been through injuries like that, and sometimes what they learn and appreciate about the game and about what they have when they're not playing is actually what propels them forward. You know what I mean? So you don't even know what's all at play in
I do think this, and I mentioned this last week after I went on a profanity-laced tirade. Off. Well, we weren't recording ever, but it was after.
We thought we weren't recording. Yeah.
So there was a lot of F-bombs. But one of the things I did say was, like, that was the second time we ever talked. And there is something about this microphone being here and getting a little more comfortable doing it and not
consciously thinking about the fact that you're actually being recorded.
And so having another trial run, not the worst thing in the world.
No, not at all.
So yeah, we did.
We've only had about 300 trial runs not recording.
Oh, right.
So now, I mean,
Well, that's the reason why I wanted to do it. I was like, all we gotta do is have a normal.
You should actually tell. I think we mentioned that in the first part, but part of it is there's been so many times where, partway through a conversation, we're like, man, this should be recorded because like part of it is, and we're not necessarily thinking like, oh man, people are gonna be so entertained by everything we say, but there's value. I feel like if I could listen into a conversation of two other business owners, guys in the same industry we're in, I'd be gaining a lot. And I've been fortunate enough to be in those conversations, to hear those guys.
When I listened over to the first podcast that we did, there were parts of it where like, oh, that's what I said. Like, I could have said, remember last time we talked, I said something about that one thing, and then I would get mad and frustrated. Well, now we got this. Hopefully, we'll have a nice backlog of all these topics.
Running archive, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
and we can actually go back and go, oh, that's what that was the concept.
And even for those you listen, one of the things we hope to do is have clips released every week, little tidbits on topics that maybe one of those topics catch your attention,
right?
And then you can find that in the podcast and listen to just that part of it, or you know what I mean? Like, hopefully, we're gonna hit some topics that resonate with a wide variety of.
There was definitely two last week that I really liked, and I cannot.
Well, we talked a bunch last week. We talked a bunch about investing. We talked about stocks and options and how the correlation between sports card investing and other investments.
I remember defining an oligopoly at one point.
Yes. Well, we talked about grading, PSA, and
that's
companies.
right.
Yeah,
the grading companies were an oligopoly.
And we'll revisit that because grading is a big part. I think as we talk about sports card culture, grading has become one of the dominant, maybe 5 topics in the sports card world. So that's obviously something, especially like when I got a graded order back today and I have like multiple 5s and 6s. You'd think I'd never done this before. When they showed my cards on the video, because there's a group of us that grade together, they showed my video. I was embarrassed. And they're like, all these guys who sent cards like for the first time were getting like 10s, and I sent.
Was there a chat going?
I sent my like 1200th order, and I got like 5s and 6s.
Was there a chat going while you were doing it? So were people going, oh, that's horrible?
No one like directly hustled me, but like it was. It was one of those. I put my head down, my tail between my legs. And I said, "We'll get them next time."
Well, I gotta tell you this. So I had a horrible weekend. Listen to this. This has nothing to do with sports cards or anything. So I got a ridiculous doctor, and so early last week, I started having a gout flare in my toe.
Okay.
So then I took some ibuprofen, kind of went away. Then it kind of came back, and then Friday, it was hitting hard. So I called my doctor, who had said that she wasn't going to give me my gout medication until I met with my rheumatologist, and I called her bluff, and so I got a gout flare, and so I called into the nurse.
And so what does calling a bluff look like in that?
It's called
what is that?
Massive amount of pain.
What does that sound like, though? Like, what'd you tell? I mean,
I said.
So, what was she concerned? You were like using the system. Like, what is the?
No. So what you do is you get prednisone, which is a steroid.
Yep. Okay.
It's not a controlled substance.
But is there people who want that?
No.
Who don't?
But she wants me to. This is what I think. She wants me to follow through with my health decisions.
Okay.
And so she was holding the gout medication as
ransom.
For me to see the rheumatologist.
Okay, what's a rheumatologist do again?
Arthritis.
So
gout's arthritis.
But I'm saying, and why have you never met with her before? Is that why?
I met him a couple times.
Okay.
And then dodged. So anyway, she did that.
Okay.
Then I had a gout flare, and I talked to the nurse, and I'm like, to her nurse, and I go, yeah, I'm pretty sure what she did was illegal. I don't know, but I'm thinking so. And so I'm like, I'm having a bad flare. I'll schedule an appointment for her, and the next appointment is tomorrow morning. I'm meeting with her, and I said,
until then, please don't.
I said I need her to write me a prescription for prednisone because this is
awful.
So she writes me a script for the medication that she's been withholding from me, which you're not supposed to take when you're having a gout flare because it makes it worse.
Wait,
So there's a medication that's like a maintenance medication.
Oh, there's a
it gets,
separate
It just
one.
gets rid of this thing called purines that are in your body. It just gets rid of it. It builds up. It turns into crystals, builds up in your toe, and then it inflames it. So this medication just like gets the purines out of your body.
Okay.
You pee them out or whatever.
Yep.
But if you take it while you're having a flare, it makes the flare worse because it's processing all this.
And so she didn't know that, or
I don't know. I think she's.
Wait, so you took it unknowingly?
No. I knew I wasn't supposed
you
to
knew
take
not
it.
to, okay.
Many doctors told me not to take that while I'm having a flare.
Yep.
I ended up in urgent care. I drove myself to urgent care when it was my right foot. Guess what you got to do when you're driving?
Hopefully use cruise with your
Got to
right
use your
foot.
right foot. It was the most painful thing in the world.
What does it feel like in your foot?
So you know how like when you get hurt and you can rest your injury and then it doesn't hurt while you're resting it?
Yeah.
You don't have that option with gout. It's just pain,
And what
pain,
is it?
pain,
Is
pain.
it like sharp throbbing, or what's the like define?
Yes and yes.
And what's the on a scale?
And like literally like
on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like your femur having a baby.
10 would be my pancreatitis.
Okay, so where is this?
Like a 7.
Okay, so it's pretty high up.
Yeah, when I had pancreatitis, I was
Do
getting
they give
morphine
you?
every 3 hours.
Do they give you painkillers too?
Well, I don't need them because the prednisone takes the swelling down so fast.
Immediately.
A couple hours, I was able to walk again.
Oh wow.
It's like
So when it's bad, you can't walk.
I can't walk. I can, but no.
How do you do? Oh, okay.
Well, so not only that, so then they gave me a dose of prednisone because it's 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm supposed to pick up medication at CVS. I send my wife to CVS. I'm feeling better.
Yep.
She brings it back. I look at it, and it says like take 6 for 5 days, take 5 for 3 days, which is normal.
Yep.
But okay, I said take 6 for 5 days, right?
Yeah.
There's 12 pills in the bottle. What's 6 times 5?
Yeah, you're gonna
Right?
need 30. Right?
I go to a pharmacist, and like the dose was almost 3 times higher than I've ever gotten before. I've taken this before.
Yeah.
And I went to a pharmacist. She's like, I don't know. It took almost 48 hours for them to fix the prescription. So while this is happening, the flare is coming back, and my sciatica is coming back because it's all linked.
Yep.
It's all one leg. So now I'm dying. So now I'm finally.
You're like laying in bed the whole time, or what?
No, I'm working.
You're here.
I'm just in pain.
in
I
your
had
house?
my shoes off one whole day because my foot couldn't fit in the shoe.
Wow.
Anyway.
So it literally swells.
Oh yeah, dude, it was huge. Like every toe was massive.
Oh
was
wow. So it's like fluid.
Yeah, I think so. I've never had it where all the other toes were like that. It was probably the worst flare I had.
Wow.
And then so people were picking up K-bit actions, and I'm in my socks, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm limping over to the back. I'm not closing this door. Like,
This guy's a grinder.
hey, this is what I keep telling people. I went without a job for so long, all of the applications with no interviews. If I may go out of business. I may go out of business. And it might be because I'm stupid. Might be because I made some bad decisions. It might be
It's
because
not going to be for lack of effort.
it's not going to be for lack of effort.
Well, not only
I'm
that-
going to try as hard as I can, hours-wise and
Yep.
commitment-wise.
Yep.
If I'm just too dumb to do it, then that's one thing.
Yep.
But
Or if the market's just really bad and it just.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you one bad thing. So now I'm feeling good, but the problem is, so when I sleep, I have to move constantly throughout the night, so
Yep.
my back doesn't lock up.
Right.
Well, with the prednisone, I don't feel the pain at night,
Mm-hmm.
so I've had the best nights of sleep. But then in the morning, like now my lower back's all messed up because I'm sleeping in one
so you
spot
need to see
the whole
a
night.
chiropractor, but you won't. Okay.
So I got to do I can only sleep like 6 hours a night now,
Wow.
and so that I don't lay in one spot. So that was my fun weekend.
Wow, mine was definitely not that painful.
Yeah, you had a lot of fun this weekend.
I had a
didn't
lot
you?
of fun. Yeah, so I have a buddy who was my college roommate, who I lived with this last year here in Minnesota, who recently, similar to like what we've talked about, just going for it when it comes to business. He's a super gifted poker player, and he's done really well. Last year in the World Series of Poker, they ran the Big 50 tournament. It was the 50th anniversary.
Oh,
And
okay.
they
I was
had
going to
the-
ask what
and
the
they-
Big 50
Yeah,
was.
so they ran a tournament without rake, meaning the house didn't take any money.
Oh.
And so they had the record turnout. It was a $500 buy-in, and they had 28,000 people.
Oh, jeez.
28,000 entrants. So they had 6 different days of day ones. So 6 different times
Oh,
starting.
okay.
Because they couldn't, obviously you can't have 28,000
people.
people at once. And he made it, so first place paid $1 million on a $500 tournament. he made it to 50th.
Wow.
And he ended
Out of
up
how many? 28,000?
28,000. And he cashed I think it was like 24,000 off $500. But since then, he's won some really big tournaments here locally. And so him and I were down in Florida last February, and we went to the Hard Rock, Seminole Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida, just north of Miami. And we were just blown away with it was a great poker room. There's a lot of people there, way more games than there are in Minnesota. And also right now in Minnesota, there's a law against no limit hold'em. So the biggest bet that can be bet is $100 in Minnesota, whereas there you can play no limit. So if it's a $500 buy-in, you can literally bet your entire stack, however much you have in front of you. So
and there's no limit to the stack that you can have.
They do limit buy-ins on some tables. Well, and that'll get to my story this weekend. But
so I was gonna say a millionaire just sits down.
No, you can't buy in with them Well, no, there are uncapped games, but there's no value if everyone at the table has 1,000, you have 1,000,000. Your effective stack is however much someone else has, meaning they can only lose what they have in front of them.
But you can bully people the whole time.
But you can also double them up. It actually doesn't work. That doesn't. It seems like that's
not a thing.
A bulletproof thing. It's not. No,
okay.
Not at all. Because people just know when they're ahead mathematically, and they're going to put their stack in, and you're going to be like, oops, I just lost, So you still have to play poker, but
and you keep just hemorrhaging.
Right, and so we were down there, and part of it is Florida doesn't have state income tax, and as those Minnesotans here are aware, I think this week we're gonna have days high in the 40s already in October.
Yeah.
The weather's awesome. So he ended up buying a house a couple months ago in Tampa, and he's gonna live there full time and play poker. So I actually went down to visit me and another buddy.
This was this past weekend. So
I left Friday. Mike was nice enough to let me off for a day early too, so I could get down there Friday. And we, my buddy Caleb, who just won a tournament in Vegas at the Venetian. It was a $400 tournament. I think there was 800 people. He won that for $72,000. So he came and visited too. So all three of us were there. But
he won that one first place.
He won that first place. Yep. So anyway, I was playing 2-5, and those guys were playing in a tournament that I couldn't play in because my flight back on Sunday. If I would have made the final table, I wouldn't have been able to play in it. So there's no point when you're mentally prepared to leave.
Sure.
So I ended up playing 2-5, which means the small blind's $2, big blind's $5. I bought in for 1,000. I had my best session ever.
I'm always 4-8 when I play.
4-8.
I don't know why.
So that's limit. Whereas this is no limit.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's the blind size, but then after that it's
okay.
any amount.
Yeah, any
can be
limit.
bet. Yeah. So I ended up cashing out that one session in 4 hours. I cashed out $4,700. So I was up $3,700 in that game.
That's nuts.
But it was a $5,000 trip, so it was a lot of fun. But then we also just had a good time. There's another buddy
paid for your
from
trip.
Florida. Oh, my trip was $200.
Oh,
so I paid for it.
A couple times.
When you have a buddy who owns a house, I kicked a little his way. But a plane ticket round trip was $200. So yeah.
How many people were on the flight?
It was close to full on the way there. On the way back, I had to watch that sick Vikings finish on the plane.
All right, let's talk about this.
Mike Zimmer needs to be fired, first of all.
Right, because you go for the field goal.
The idiocy of that decision, I know you like to take a risk, and I know I've heard a lot of people be like, oh, you can go either way. No, you can't. No, you can't, because you cannot lose in regulation if you kick.
Do you? Well, you can, but...
No, you can't. No, you can't. They have to score twice.
You
cannot lose.
No, it was going to be 8 points.
You can't
if
lose.
We made it. No, I understand that, but we could miss the field goal.
Oh, I'm saying...
Yeah. Well, do you remember how far the field goal was? Because I don't.
19 yards.
19.
It was they were at the 3.
I didn't realize it was that close. It was a chip shot.
It was 20 yards. Yeah, it was
I was so baffled.
Much closer than an extra point is currently.
I was so baffled by that decision, and
here's the problem: is when you force the other team to have to drive, knowing they have to both score a touchdown and get a 2-point conversion just to tie. Yeah. It's far different than we drive and score and win. Literally, they're driving to score a touchdown to win the game.
Right, but that in such a chip shot at 19 too. Because I couldn't remember foolish. How far away it was going to be. If it was a 54-yarder.
Obviously, the run wasn't phenomenal.
No.
Madison didn't do...
Oh, by the way, he had a gap. If you look at it,
right,
he had a gap to the right.
It was blocked up plenty, yeah.
In the middle was blocked, but he had this big lane on the right-hand side. So...
But the classic way for the Vikings, for those of you Vikings fans, my buddy said, a few years ago, my buddy told my brother this story. He has a son, I think, who's 8. And this was after Blair Walsh missed the field goal against the Seahawks in the 30-below game, in the playoffs. He said, well, son, you're now a Vikings fan because until the Vikings tear your heart out and stomp on it, you don't know what it's like to be a Vikings fan. And this was another classic example.
You know, you would think 98 would be my biggest year, but it wasn't. It was 2010.
2010.
2010, is that right? Brett Favre?
No, 2009.
2009. So 2009, the beginning of the year started, and I go, it's the first time I'm a homer, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, the Vikings are gonna do it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a homer, I think, because I thought the Twins were gonna win in '91.
Yeah.
Preseason, like I remember running into my speech therapist room because I had speech therapy that day, and I go, we signed Chili Davis. Like, that's how into baseball I was.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're going to win. And I thought I'm an internal optimist. But I said, you know what? Screw Brett Favre. He's horrible. I hate him. I'm not rooting for this damn team.
Wow.
And we go all the way through 2009. No, I'm happy when we win, but I'm just kind of, like, grumbly about it. I'm just like, oh, yeah, Brett Favre.
Well, partly you don't really want to win with Favre because you know you're never going to live it down with the Packer fans.
Well, that wasn't an issue. I would have been more than happy. The problem was that championship game, in the third quarter, I go, all year, in the third quarter, I go, I think we're going to win this thing. I spent 4 months saying no.
And they won you over just in time.
Brett Favre
just in time.
Just screwed me in the end.
Yep.
So it was the 09. It wasn't.
He actually, the whole year was just, he was waiting for John Anderson to get on board to be able to, like.
If I would have not done it, we would have won.
Nice throw, John.
Yeah.
Nice throw, Brett. Thanks for that. Thanks for the penalty with having 2 men in the huddle, like out of a timeout.
Well, I was thinking more just that pick. It was right before that. It was right. I mean,
really well done.
I don't know. It must have been like 10 minutes before he threw that interception.
Yeah, it was unreal. No, I remember that. I still remember the year where we gave up that touchdown to Nathan Poole for the Cardinals in the last play of the last game of the year to get knocked out of the playoffs and for Green Bay to go in.
Yeah.
And they Green Bay gave Nathan Poole the keys to Green Bay. They flew and the Cardinals had nothing to play for. They were not getting the playoffs. All they could do is spoil our team. And I remember Chris Hovan, the D tackle, after the game, just I remember the look on his face, and I was like, "Yep, I know that. Yep, that's I've experienced you. I know exactly what you're feeling. Yep, thank you."
There's another
There's
another game in 92, 93 where we kept Barry Sanders under 10 yards for the whole game, and then I'm sure I'm off on my number. We wrapped him up the entire game. Goes to overtime. He runs 98-yard touchdown in overtime. I mean, this is life.
The one that I will never forget that just sticks in my mind because every time you see a clip of Mike Vick, it's the walk-off touchdown in overtime against the Vikings where I don't know if it's Pete Bursich and another player collide right behind him. They miss him and they knock each other out, and he's the coolest run ever. And I'm like, well, I got hats off. I mean, obviously we gave that up.
All right, well, I'm thoroughly depressed, so let's talk about some cards. So I got something that happened to me yesterday.
I want to hear it.
And
then I want to talk about the cards I just picked up tonight.
Absolutely. So my story is not that interesting, but I want to send it back to you because I'm thinking that you might have a couple interesting stories that maybe I've never heard before.
Sure.
So yesterday a guy comes in. He seems all right, maybe a little sketchy, but he's kind of all over and
his story's not making sense.
No, it wasn't that. I mean, I wasn't worried that they weren't his cards. It's just
he was on meth. You'll have those guys.
Yeah, he's just kind of all over the store, and then I couldn't understand him, and then he wouldn't. It was just kind of weird. So he had a bunch of cards. It was a nice lot of cards.
Sure.
And so I looked through it all, offered him $500 for it. And so then he's a negotiator. And you know me, I'm not a big negotiator. I tend to just throw it out there, and it is what it is.
Yep.
And he wants to do some trading. And I'm like, okay. And he's doing the thing where he's like, how about if I take this away and I move here? And he's trying to trip me out, right?
Work it in his direction.
Right. And now the whole time he's doing that, he's losing.
Yep.
He's losing because every time now he's not really losing in the sense that he's out anything.
Is this the first time he's ever been in?
First time he's ever been in.
You never dealt with him.
No, he's not losing on his end, but I'm gaining on my end because he wants stuff that's really high margin from me.
Sure.
And so he got the Roy Halladay Bowman's Best autograph.
Okay.
Well, I get a big commission on that card.
Yeah.
So my cost basis is way lower than the price of it. Now, that doesn't mean anything to him, but as he's doing that, it's working out a little better in my favor. in terms of my cost basis. And I even told him, I said, like, I'll donate my commission to this because it was a solid lot. But that's not the issue. If people want to negotiate, cool. I can do that.
John, wait till you hear. I have a story.
Hold on.
I have like 3 right now.
Okay, there you go. You're gonna be talking a while after this.
It's gonna be good.
And my story doesn't last much longer. Basically, when I have to go back and watch the security tapes, but at some point, while my back's turned, he pulls some cards out of the lot. So I'm missing a bunch of Arise, including a 101.
Wow.
I'm missing some Tim Duncans.
Wow.
And then probably some other stuff because I only looked at it the one time.
And so how could he have taken him out without you seeing him walk out with him? Because he left.
No. So it's a big pile on the counter, right?
Yep.
And then he had a few cards that he was keeping.
Oh, and
right?
he just added.
And so by just seeing it, I don't know if he pocketed them or what. And it was a big pile of cards.
Here's the lesson you'll learn. Look over your lot again before you finalize the deal.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've looked
but it was
over.
the first time I've seen all the cards, so I don't even know if I would have noticed they were missing because I didn't notice till I went all the way through it. I'm like, where's that a Rise 101? Like, I wanted to take a look at that again.
That's a big one.
And I mean, it was a 2020.
Was it an auto?
No, it was just a printing plate. It wasn't that big of a deal. But there was a stack of them. There was maybe like 10 of them or 12 of them.
Yeah.
And so whatever. Lesson learned.
Did you call him up or?
No, I got his driver's license number. Oh, not only that, he steals from me, and then he complains about me writing him a check instead of giving him cash.
Well,
because it's going to cost him money to cash check. I'm like,
hey, to that point, I always use that as a negotiating factor. When I ask someone, so do you need cash or are you okay with the check? And the moment they say they need cash, guess what? I win.
Yeah.
Because now I can negotiate in that direction.
Right.
Oh, you don't want to take a check? Okay, well
then. But you know what that is? I think that was just more negotiation because he watched me write out the entire check. I took his driver's license.
Hey, but you don't realize there are people who don't have bank accounts.
I understand that, but he's watching me write the whole thing out, not saying a word. And then he got the check in his hand. We're talking about something, and then all of a sudden he's like, I thought I was going to get cash. Like, it's a little late for you to bring this out.
Well, no, yeah. And I tend to ask people at the very front of the negotiation what they need because that's actually you'll learn that's a huge leverage point for you.
Yeah, but why would you do that up front? Wouldn't you wait and then when you're at when you're at the precipice of it, I'm like, oh, you need cash? Oh, well, I can give you a little less. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's one option, but I like to know right up front because if I know they need cash, a lot of times I'll know
more motivated.
How desperate they are for the money.
Well, I don't really deal like that, though.
And how much money I need to have there at that point.
Well, I'll put it this way, though. I've been giving everybody pretty good offers. And that would have been, even with all that stuff, he got a really good offer from me.
Well, to that
I would have made some money, but...
To that point, do you have more to say on that? Because I want to throw a story this weekend. We had the most unique collection
here's my
story
question.
Ever. Yeah.
So here's my question to you about that. I've only been in the shop for 8 months, 10 months, 9 months. I'm sure you got... What are some of the things that happen in deals like that where the underbelly of the hobby is
I've been
got you?
I've been threatened to be killed.
You've been threatened to be killed? What was that?
A guy told me he was going to shoot me. It happened like our first year in business. Actually, he told Mike he was going to shoot. He told him by text he was going to shoot Mike and he was going to bitch slap me. That's the guy, direct quote. I'm going to bitch slap that guy. So this guy comes in with a collection. This is like 3 years ago, and this guy actually knows Mike through a mutual friend. This is where he gets so funny. The guy sits down. He comes in with a couple memorabilia pieces. He had like a big frame Babe Ruth. It wasn't signed or anything. It was just it was like a piece, a print with some other stuff. Yeah. And then he had a bunch of cards that were literally like 90s, like junk wax. No like good rookies. Nothing we could even resell.
Stuff.
So we're like, we don't really want the cards. The frames aren't really our favorite thing. We can put them on the wall. They're not really going to sell it. And we made him an offer that was fair. It was like $100 or something. It was like, I don't even know, like...
The Babe Ruth, maybe you get 100.
I mean, if the Babe Ruth ever sells, we'll get our money back. But otherwise, there's nothing in the collection. And
you were early in the store where you're like, okay, we're trying to buy.
Yeah, we're trying to buy some stuff. And we could throw it on the wall or whatever.
Right.
And he was literally like... He like lost his mind, dude. He like
So you said, what did you say? You said 100, and then
I said like, this is what we could do on this. I don't know how much you're looking. And he just was like, he took it so personal, like, and this is something I've learned. And this actually connects to the conversation about poker this weekend.
Okay.
We had this conversation with the poker guys. We were breaking down some strategy and stuff. And what I've noticed in poker, which is very similar to sports cards, is someone comes in with cards to sell, baseball cards, and they always think they have the best condition, most valuable cards. Same thing in poker. Everyone wants to think they have the best hand. It's hard to acknowledge, like, oh, I might be beat here. I need to fold.
Okay.
Versus I need to be willing to realize and not let ego and not let pride and not let this, like, I need to win mentality.
And hope.
And hope. And making a poor, like, mathematical, logical, information-based decision, right? And so, like, I've learned this with our own cards. Like, Mike and I is like, today I was actually going over some of our grade cards, and I actually pulled like 4 or 5 out that I was thinking I was going to grade because I noticed a flaw that was enough to go, no, I'm not grading it. Like, and you have to have that critical eye in cards. Well, some people, like, their hope is, I have this collection that's worth millions of dollars, and they just can't let it die.
Okay,
and so when you burst that bubble, they want to kill you.
So Clint,
or threaten to kill you.
You said $100. How did that? I want to know how it is shooting and.
Okay, so then, like, he leaves with the stuff. We're like, okay.
Oh,
no problem,
so he just leaves.
Yeah, no harm, no foul.
Oh,
We're
okay.
Like, he's like, that offer's too low. I'm like, okay. And I was like, well, what were you thinking? And I don't even think he gave us a number. So it wasn't even like he had it wasn't like, oh, I need 400 and we can, like, maybe.
So when he left the store, you didn't think anything was all that bad.
I thought it was just it was another deal that we passed on.
Okay.
Then Mike gets a text message from him.
How did he have Mike's text
and
number?
He said through his buddy that referred him to the shop.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of a.
So they had a mutual friend of
second
some
degree.
And the guy literally texts him and he goes, I'm cleaning the scope on my rifle right now. Or so he, like, makes some, like, and I'm like, and then he goes,
what?
And he goes, and your partner who made me the offer, I'm gonna come and bitch slap him. And I'm going to blow you
That's
away
you.
Or something. Yeah.
He's going to shoot Mike.
He's going to shoot Mike and then slap me.
Okay, but why did
funny.
Mike get killed and you only get, like, mildly assaulted?
Because I need to be insulted. I mean, it's more shameful, I guess, to be slapped. I don't know. Like a bit. I don't know. I mean, you got to ask him.
I don't know. I'd rather get slapped.
Don't shoot the messenger on this one. But and I'll say this much. We had a guy not too long ago that Mike dealt with. And then I want to hit on a deal this weekend. The first time it's ever happened. Mike had a guy who came in. We actually stayed open late because he called. He said he was coming.
I vaguely remember.
And he literally had like 3 Jeter rookies or something. And they were, they're like $10 cards. Like, we have them in the case for $10, you know.
Right.
And he offers them like $40 for everything. And there's no value there. And the guy, like, loses it and he threatened to blow the shop up.
Blow the shop up.
And Mike's like, you need to leave now. And he's like, I'll call the cops if you don't leave.
Yeah.
He literally.
Did he leave?
So we've had threats of being
no. Wait.
Shot, blown up.
Did he go, oh, blow the joint up? Or did he say, are you kidding me? I'm going to blow this. Like, was he serious or was it glib?
Well, I wasn't there to hear the tone of voice, which is...
The tone of voice point.
I don't think it was like a pure joke. Like, I don't think it was like... Mike, I think, was serious enough about it. He's like, no, you need to leave. You can't make sense of that, you know. But then this weekend we had
But if you watch The Office, Michael, the manager in The Office, he threatened to burn the place to the ground like 8 times. I don't think he was ever...
No, this wasn't like me joking about it. Like, I have a stake in it, so obviously I wouldn't do that. Like, this is like a total stranger. Like, but he's probably not mentally stable at that point. We do. I've had tons of people come in high on meth, like selling cars. No. I mean, I've dealt with.
I haven't dealt with that.
I've dealt with every drug, substance, every sketchy. I mean, we've had to turn people away because we just knew the items were hot. We just knew they were stolen. But this weekend we had an interesting one where a woman came in, from local woman. Older, Mike dealt with her. He texted me photos, and her husband had passed away, and she had brought in some nicer, higher value stuff. She had a Jordan rookie, a Bird Magic Johnson rookie, a couple LeBron rookies. Sure. And Mike bought the collection. He paid strong on it. He paid fair, like really fair based on the
liquid cards.
Comps. Yep,
they're liquid.
And wrote her a check and whatever, and we listed. He texted me a photo, and he started. Some of them were graded, and he had actually listed a bunch of them. Okay. A couple of them sold right away. And then the next day, so he buys it Friday afternoon, Saturday, middle of the day, which is one of our busiest days in store. And usually we have 1 or 2 guys there helping. It's just packed. And she comes back in and she's like, I think I want to go back on the deal. Like,
what do you do?
We've never had this happen. First time ever. She's like, I think I want my cards back. And Mike's like, well, just so you know, we already sold a few.
Right.
And I already have a bunch of them listed that I put work into. So he's like, she brought in the check. She hadn't cashed it.
How do you even...
So Mike, I think, was so busy. I would have probably pulled her aside and been like, can you come back Tuesday and we can talk more about this? We'll pull everything aside.
It's a sensitive situation.
Just to be like, now, because legally, we didn't have to do anything. Like, they're ours. Like,
the deal's been made.
The deal's been made. But I mean, we want to run a business that's known for integrity.
Well, not
and honesty.
only that, but there's a difference between a collector who's buying and selling all the time, saying, I want to go back on that deal, and tell them to go pound sand.
Yep.
And a wife whose husband passed or
and
something.
may have seller's remorse because
right.
she doesn't know.
I would treat that way more with kids.
It was a very sensitive thing. So we ended up keeping a decent portion that had already been sold and listed, and we compensated her a small percentage where we still had a margin on that.
Sure.
But then we gave her all the big cards back that were literally, and I told Mike, I said, it would have been so different if I would have been here. Some of those cards I would have sent to PSA right away.
Right.
And then I don't know how we would have handled that. Like, sorry, like, we'll give you back what we haven't graded or, you know, I mean. So.
And then how do you even keep, like, with that's a bigger end deal, but, like.
She gives us the check back and we gave her the.
Right, but sometimes you get in lots that are so varied and weird. Yeah. I couldn't even tell you what cards were yours. I mean,
think, what had
but you
happened.
Had, unfortunately, in that one, they were very specific
What
cards.
had happened is Mike had actually prepped, which this is unfortunate for us, is he had spent hours prepping all the cards for grading, which those of you listening, you might not be familiar with what we're referring to, but like a card that sits in a top loader in a penny sleeve in a a case in dust for years, when you take it out, like sometimes there's things that can be wiped off.
Right.
Like now PSA doesn't allow you to clean with chemicals. Like that's a violation of their standards. But you can wipe down a card, and you can then put it in. It has to go into a separate sleeve that gets shipped to PSA.
New sleeve, yeah.
And so he had separated all the cards from that collection in a pile to go to PSA. Right. So we had all those, and all those, that was where the majority of the value rested. Right. And then there was some that were already graded, and then the rest of them that we had already integrated into our inventory, we figured out an amount to buy those for. So,
yeah, they're the.
I don't know if she'll come back. I have no idea. Like, I wish I would have talked to her. I'm just knowing. I'm telling the story secondhand.
But I'm a bit of an empath, so I feel more. I think it's ever since I had the baby, like the baby turned me into a woman. Maybe I don't.
You learned empathy.
I had a little empathy before the baby came along, and those, like when I did that big purchase in November for that big collection, like this guy's in his 80s, and we took 5 weeks to make the deal. We went back and forth. But my buddy Mark goes, he goes, did you see him? And I said, yeah, I saw him. And he looked so sad because it was a lifetime collection.
Sure.
And he already moved like all of his good stuff.
Yep.
And I was taking all the bulk.
Yep.
And
it wasn't the money either. It was
it wasn't the money.
And I've had those conversations where I just bought a collection that I brought a bunch of that stuff to you for K-Bit, all those sets from that guy. Part of it's learning how to relate to people in the process of them letting go, because it's like,
and he was a dealer.
It met some sort of emotional need in their lives, and like part of it is I tell those people like it's not just like cutthroat business for us. Like we're sensitive that we're collectors. I know. I mean, there's certain things in my collection I don't want to sell, and if I ever did, like I get it. And so like that's part of it is you're learning how to like walk with people in that process of like, and recognizing like I guess she wasn't ready. And I don't know if Mike discerned that beforehand or not. If he did, I think he would have like.
Yeah, I did a lot of that with that deal in November. I told him multiple times. I said, I get this. This is your lifelong collection.
Yep.
I said, there's no pressure for me to make this deal today.
Yep.
There's no pressure to make it next week.
Yep.
When you're ready, you're ready.
Well,
and we had to go back and forth.
Well, and the other thing you have to tell people, which I'm sure you've had this conversation, is I can't pay sentimental value on things. Like I can't, like, because someone has a sentimental attachment to an item, I usually tell them to keep those items because the market isn't going to pay that. And so for me to make any profit in a business now, as another collector, if I had the same, like say I collected the same player and I needed that card for my collection, that's different. Like maybe you would overpay for a card that you needed as a collector.
Well, one of the things I did was when we talked about it, I said we found, I can't even remember what it was, but we found it was more of a piece of memorabilia than a card. But I said, why don't you keep this? Like, why don't you make this the representation of your collection? It was it was something nice. It was a few $100s.
Yep.
And I was like, he goes, oh, I really like that. And he was telling me this long story about it. And I said, maybe you shouldn't put that in the collection. Maybe because they were going to like assisted care, they're moving out of their house, and I was like, you should keep at least one thing and just be like, that's your thing. That's the representation of your collection. And it was a nice piece, but like the way he was talking about it was just like, I wish I could remember what it was.
Sure.
But the way he was talking about it, like, it held a lot of meaning to him. Like, yeah, take that and have that be your item.
Yeah. I always actually tell people a lot of times there's items that I don't put any value on in the collection that I'll actually ask them to keep, or like, keep this to remember your family. Like, we've worked with numerous estate scenarios where I remember helping 4 daughters who the one daughter's husband was the one in charge of helping them liquidate this collection. And it was, at the time, the largest sale we had ever negotiated. It was $20,000 for a bunch of 50s and like 3,000 cards from like 51 to like late 50s. And I remember, like, when you have that many people involved, like, every decision, the first decision to grade the cards had to be like approved by all 3 of them, because they were all paying out of their proceeds to get the stuff graded. And then at that one, I actually didn't buy it from them because I wanted them, like a realtor,
to know the value.
I wanted to actually go to bat for them. So I actually told them, I'm going to negotiate a sale for you. You're going to pay me a commission so that I'm actually on your side selling it. So the more you make, the more I make. And so it's actually, so you don't think I'm undervaluing it. And so we actually...
Well, part of that was sending it to be graded, so then you could... I remember some of the conversations, like, now we can go on eBay, and there's no question to what the value is.
Because the problem before that is, like, they go, well, a 7 on this... They actually had a 51 Bowman Mickey Mantle rookie.
Wow.
Which it graded a 2. And I think in a 2 at the time, they were maybe like 2,000 to 3,000. But I think they had looked up, like, sold listings on
like
eBay,
4
and a 7 might sell for 40,000. And so they're like, well, we have a... And I'm like, no, I'm sorry, and you're not going to believe me if I buy it ungraded, so we're going to grade them first.
Right.
And then when they come back from PSA, you're
I
going to
remember thinking that was really smart, even though it took a lot more time, was that...
And I didn't make as much had I bought them ungraded and graded them myself, because I would have bought them even more conservatively based on the condition.
But maybe they wouldn't have sold them to you either, because
right.
they were the $40,000 card.
That's
was
what
really
they thought.
worth, too.
Yep. And so a lot of times I grade them for 2 reasons. One, there's no question of authenticity, in case there's some sort of alteration where it's
Michael Jordan rookies.
Yep. It's all authentic, and then it's also like it's actually in my favor because now I know the exact market on it. The margin, there's less upside of a card grading super high, but there's way less risk, so it's a more secure transaction, which is actually the purpose of grading.
Absolutely.
Because the grading sets the market on a card, and I actually tell people this all the time, which is, you know, one of the reasons to grade a card for a collector is if those cards are being passed down into a future estate, those other people might have no idea what they have. Well, once it's graded, they do. They know exactly the condition. They know exactly what year, what card, what, you know, all the details of what makes it. Yeah,
I had bought a Blastoise first edition for my nephew.
Oh, wow.
In 2000 for Christmas. I bought a Charizard first edition for the oldest nephew.
What?
And I bought a black. You don't know about this?
Do you know the value on that card?
Yeah, I know the value on this.
Do you want me to tell you? Actually, I want to look it up. No, you don't know the value.
No, the 10 went for $45,000 a couple months ago.
Try 100.
No way, it doubled in the last month?
Yeah, one sold for 100.
Jeez. So anyway, I paid $40 for my Charizard. And
$40?
I paid $25 for the Blastoise.
Wow.
Right? So the kids were weighing Pokemon.
Wow.
And I'm a collector. I know what I'm looking at. And the Pokemon seemed like it was going to be kind of a big deal. And so, unfortunately, the oldest nephew had moved it.
Yep.
The youngest nephew never gets rid of anything. And so,
wow.
So I was talking to a Pokemon guy a couple months.
When you say moved it, like sold or traded?
Yeah, he probably pawned it, is my guess. Because I had one point I told him, oh, it's worth a few $100s. So this is 15 years ago. And then I'm sure once I said that, he decided, like, oh, it's worth money. Let me go pawn it. But at the time, the Blastoise was only worth, $100 maybe. And so I told my nephew Christopher, I said, yeah, keep that card. It's like worth $100 now. And he goes, oh, cool. And so, but he never gets rid of anything. So I'm talking to a customer about this because it's my one fun Pokemon story.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, that Blastoise must be worth a few $100s now.
Yeah.
And he's looking at me like I'm nuts. We go look it up. A PSA 6 is $3,800, $4,200 for the Blastoise.
Wow.
So to speak to your point, I sent a message to my nephew and I said, you need to find that card and give it to me so I can grade it. That way, whenever you need money, you'll know exactly what you can get for the card.
Yes.
And so It's like a 20-year extension on a Christmas gift. But I want him to be able to sell that card for the right amount if he ever needs the money. Now, if he never needs the money and keeps it forever, that's awesome.
Yep.
But if he's like, okay, it's a 7 and it's 5, then he can literally go on eBay. He doesn't even need Uncle John at that point. Hopefully he'd ask my opinion on what he should take, but he can go on eBay himself, look up PSA 7 Blastoise.
Yep.
Last 3 sales were 51, 51, and 49. He's like, okay, I want $4,000 for it from a private seller. He knows he's leaving $1,000 on the table, but he knows he's not, selling it for nothing.
Well, and that's actually that's the beauty of even a company. Let's say you ran a business that sold sports cards. Let's just hypothetically think of that, John. Let's say one day you ran a business.
One day I'll do
cards.
that.
And you had someone who was new, and they were listing cards.
Mm-hmm.
Listing cards that are great, and this is true for the auction houses like PWCC. They offer a way lower rate for you to sell a graded card with them for 2 reasons. One, they have way less returns on the condition. Number 2, they can have someone who's the first day on the job, and they say, this is the template for the listing title.
Correct.
You follow the PSA label.
There's nothing to look at.
There's nothing for them to try to figure out of, is this a parallel or not, or is this the gold or the, it's like it's all there for you. And so that alone is valuable, right?
To them,
Just to give you an idea of what the last
Dude, I didn't know
PSA
it
10
doubled.
Charizard sold for.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, John, in 2019, wow, 2020, May 2nd this year, a PSA 10 first edition sold for $75,000.
Yeah. Okay, I thought $45,000. So.
And then another one sold for $60,000.
No, somebody just bought one. Who just bought one?
Oh, I just saw a
Some famous guy.
Famous rapper just paid like.
Common? Not
No.
Common. He had a name like that though.
Yep, I just saw that too. It was on Twitter or something. Yep.
Logic.
Logic. Yeah.
Logic bought one. Yeah, I saw that a couple of days ago. I mean, he paid.
I actually just
He paid $226 though. What the hell is his problem?
183.
Is what?
183.
183, but why is he paying so far over?
there's the only one for sale. There's one listed for 200.
Well, it says 173,000 pounds in this one. Oh, it must be an article from England.
So
yeah.
anyway,
$40. What's up? eBay. Done.
Wow.
Blastoise 25. I'm pretty sure. Well, here's the thing. I had no money.
Wait,
I had no money in college, so I know I didn't pay $100 for the Charizard.
First
it was $40.
edition
It was the right one. It was the correct one.
Never great. What kind of condition do you remember at all?
Well, here's the thing. We're talking. It's probably, fall junior year, so it's probably 1999 maybe, or it's 2000, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember. But I'm a card collector, and so like if they would have sent me a jacked up card, I would have been like, this card's all jacked up.
Right.
It's got to be a 7.
Right.
Both of them had to be at least a 7.
I actually almost bought a Charizard, not a first edition.
Could be a 9.
I almost bought an original Charizard last week, and the back of it, like there was like 3 or 4 spots where there was almost like significant.
Yeah, I wouldn't have that
like
because I would have noticed that and sent it back. And then I put it down in a recessed screw down. I remember that part.
Wow.
And then we'll see if I'm right. So when he finds that if it's not in a recessed screw down, I'm like, what?
Oh, so the Blastoise hasn't been found.
No, he can't. He sent me a message back like I can't find it. I'm looking, but he has it. It's somewhere in a box somewhere.
Wow.
So when he finds it, I'll send it in for grading for him.
So he doesn't even realize what he has.
No, I told him. I said I didn't even know. I thought it was worth $500 maybe.
So it's on what grade sold for $3,500?
6.
Wow. So
maybe 42
so
or something around there.
It's probably 5,000 to 8,000.
Yeah. And so hopefully you can find. And here's the thing: it could easily be a 9.
Right.
Like just you gotta remember, I bought it for $25. It's not, and that's what they were going for. It's not like.
Yeah.
It's not like that was the bad condition one.
Well,
that's
Pokemon,
just what they were going for.
I remember, you remember at the National, our first National, when that guy came around who was buying Pokemon. We had a long conversation with him.
Oh. We want to talk about something about the first National?
About the fakes that he he reprimanded us that we didn't even know we had? Do you remember?
No, I don't want to talk about that part at all. I want to talk about the Michael Jordan Chevy Blazer card that you had 2 opportunities to buy at the First National, and you didn't know what it was.
Now, you know what's funny is that phrase now is my new phrase for a really high-grade card. I call it a Chevy Trailblazer.
Do you really?
Because they're blazers, like that's a blazer, that's a fiery, hot card.
Is it related to the Jordan?
Not specifically, but now I think about it, it's a pretty sad story. But
Yeah, so, this guy had one, and I had read a Beckett article about it years prior. And I said, that's a big card, but I didn't know the background of it, like the pricing. And there's never a lot of, good pricing information. But the part about, the part of the trip was my favorite was on the way back home.
Yeah.
I started Googling the card because he had 2 opportunities. The guy came back around with it, and he kind of wanted it, you weren't sure. And I'm reading the article about how rare it was and how in demand it was. And you're driving just going, oh, man. You're killing me.
Well,
I'm like, I enjoyed that part.
Well, and I'll tell you the story why I passed
Hold on.
it.
Seeing my friends
Yep.
in like
Anguish?
distress is
thanks.
enjoyable for me.
Well, you're a sick human.
Yeah.
So long story short, the fact that this guy was what I remember him saying was he was a dealer. He was a card dealer. He sold cards. He wasn't set up at the show.
Yeah, he wasn't set up, but he was a dealer. Yeah,
He was a dealer, and we were set up at the literal. So this is the psychology of what went into it for me is we were set up at the very back of the whole room,
Yes.
right? And so the fact that I'm seeing this card, and I'm thinking to myself, there's no way he hasn't shown it to 3 or 4 other dealers before me.
Right.
There must be something I'm missing. This must be too good to be true. And we couldn't find a comp on it. I didn't even have the resource. For those of you who are collectors, like the greatest resource, one of the greatest resources in sports cards is your ability to gather information about cards, especially ones that like don't sell. Because as you know on eBay, a sale after 90 days drops off the radar. So you have to use these secondary websites that search.
Let me interject
the archives.
real quick before you go. So let's explain what we're talking about. We're talking about a 97 or 98.
No, I think it was like 95, I thought, maybe. 94,
Okay, so what happened was there was a Chevrolet dealer
in town
in Chicago, and if you bought a brand new Chevy Blazer, you got a voucher in the form of a card, and you could remit that to a steakhouse for like a $400 steak dinner.
No, I don't think it was that much.
Or
It was
whatever it
probably
was.
like
Whatever
it was.
It was like Ruth's Chris.
Yep, it was very nice, yeah.
And so most people bought the car, got the card, gave it to...
It was like a rebate of sorts,
right.
And it drove business to...
Gave it to the hostess, and they threw it in the trash.
Right.
And so, there you go.
So
But not only did you have to buy a car,
Yep.
but then people got rid of a bunch of them, and they went in the trash.
So if, let's say there was 1,000 of them made...
Yeah, we were trying to do the math on how many they could have sold.
And then let's say a couple hundred got sold, and only maybe, I don't know,
Right.
how many people... And I would say, I don't think anyone would have bought the car... not used it. I think these must have been the ones that never got given away.
Used.
They never got given to a customer.
No. I think I can. It's a steak dinner. I mean, you got a busy life. I mean, I can see plenty of people just kind of go, "Oh, we should have." Oh, crap, expired.
Yeah, maybe.
And then they might have been someone used.
Well, and at the time, think about it this way: like
not remitted.
at the beginning of sports cards. For those of you listening, I don't know if some of you guys aren't going to know the history of cards, but like the first companies to make baseball cards were tobacco companies.
Correct.
They would make the card and insert it into the pack of cigarettes or cigars, and
there may have been other types of items where
and
they
it'd be
put
like
it in there.
you're getting a pack of 10 cigarettes and you're getting one card.
Right.
Well, then the Gowdy Gum Company, it's shifted to gum.
Right.
Then they began to do it with a card with a pack of gum, and then it became Topps was really the first company to make the cards the focus.
Because ultimately,
And the gum was secondary.
Dad would buy the cigarettes, and then
Kid would get the card.
kid would be like, "Can I have the card?"
It's like
and
a
then,
form of advertising.
well, yeah, I mean, it's like if I buy this pack of cigarettes, then my kid's really happy because he gets a prize.
Yep.
And so
Exactly.
It makes sense. It's a very simple marketing
and what's
strategy.
the word for paper products that were meant to be thrown away?
And I can't say it.
Ethereal?
It's something like this.
We're gonna have to look that up and confirm that. We're really smart.
Eczema?
No, it's.
I want to say emphysema, but I don't
No,
have that.
that's a disease from. Spain. No.
Hey, it
Which
all
my grandma
link.
died from. Anyway,
Yeah,
so the whole idea was those were never meant or created to be kept. That was the whole point of cards.
Right.
So then you fast forward, like that card specifically at the time, the market for that card
Yeah.
was that it was worth a steak dinner.
Well,
like,
how about
it was
how
never
about
gonna
this
be
too?
worth more than
How
they
about this
thought the
too?
steak
There's no
dinner.
internet. I mean, there was, but nobody had it. There's no internet for us to go on Facebook and say, "Hey, man, they're giving this card away with the blazer. Keep an eye out."
Right.
Go put a Facebook ad saying you're buying the card.
Well, they did
if you buy a blazer.
You realize they did that this last year with Hanes, because
Yeah.
Hanes has a deal with Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
They
and what
put
happened?
They put cards in the Hanes product, and they inserted.
An autograph.
They put 10 autographs in all the packs.
And what
in
did
the
we see
country.
on the internet?
People were buying.
If you find the autograph, I want it. I need it.
Yep.
This is 1995, 96. I think it was later. I think it was 97 or 98.
Yeah, it might have been.
I'll look
It
it
might
up.
have been. But anyway, like, so my psychology on the thing was there must be something I don't know about this card, because somebody else would have surely bought it, right? If they knew what it was. But then the other part is we couldn't find a single sold listing, so I didn't know. I had no idea. I think, what did he want for it? 800. I couldn't remember how much. I don't remember the dollar
I think
amount.
it was under 1,000.
At this
for sure.
point, like, and I was at the point in our business where I was there to sell, not buy.
And
so
it was a brand new business. I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
guys are
Well, I
how
wasn't-
far into the business?
I wasn't going to sink we were like a year.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't going to sink $800 into a card I wasn't sure about. I was hardly even going to sink $800 into a card that I knew I could make $200 or $300 on, you know?
Right.
So, anyway, it's funny how you remember the ones you missed, but, you know, it's one of those where there's plenty of other scores behind.
Well, 98. Let's stop. 1998. I had it right
98.
the first time. I think I said 97.
So, yeah.
So that was a fun story. All right, next thing I want to talk about is just real quick. Is Dak Prescott ever gonna play again? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, he's going to be fine. They actually just announced
Really?
today he had surgery and everything was repaired, and there's no, like, long-term damage.
I thought he had like that floppy foot. I couldn't watch it. Like, I can't watch people getting injured anymore.
I didn't watch it either.
So.
I mean, it looks sad.
But they said that he'd probably come back.
Well, and the big deal was they interviewed Jerry Jones because he didn't give him a long-term deal, and now it's like,
I thought he signed a long-term deal.
no, Dak never signed a deal. I don't think. Did he? No, Dak didn't get a deal, and so everyone's like,
Holy
this is
smokes.
why he held out to get a deal, right? This is the level of uncertainty.
Yeah,
Now,
but what he got offered by Jerry Jones, he got some big offers that he said no to.
yeah, and so he got.
So
he got
pride might have gotten away.
Well, he got a franchise tag, so he's going to make whatever $35 million this year, $32 million or whatever.
Right, but here's the thing: this is where you don't want your ego to get too far into it either.
Speaking of ego, one of the funniest,
I got to be the
most
highest paid quarterback.
odd, like,
thought
ego
so.
scenarios in the NFL was DeMarco Murray back when he was with Dallas. He led the league in rushing.
Uh-huh.
Thought it was about him.
Oh, yeah.
Thought it was somehow because he was good. He's not good. Emmitt Smith wasn't that good. Emmitt Smith was not that good.
Okay, let's not get into that.
Emmitt Smith was not the best running back of all time. Not even close. Maybe the top 15.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. What's that offensive line?
He's in a system. DeMarco Murray holds out for like a few million more dollars, goes to the Eagles. Literally, I don't think ever rushes for more than like 300 yards in a season, is out of the league in 3 years.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't realize, like, and this is true for quarterbacks. Think of all the quarterbacks right now where, like, Baker Mayfield, like, it's such a different scenario than if he was in Kansas City and Mahomes was in Cleveland or Mahomes was in Cincinnati.
Although,
like, you know,
Mahomes is probably better than Baker Mayfield.
Oh, no, Mahomes is way better. But I'm saying Baker Mayfield would look really good in Kansas City with Andy Reid.
That's correct.
With that offense, with that, you know, the whole thing. And so, like, sometimes for a quarterback, it's so much more about finding the right place at the right time than it is
they're
about,
saying that about Dwayne Haskins, that from draft day he was a bad fit for the Redskins.
Yeah.
And so
By the
there
way,
may
did
be
you
an
see
opportunity.
Did you see Alex Smith, speaking of injuries, did you see Alex Smith got in the game?
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
How crazy is that? He almost died, dude.
Oh, right.
He was like, it was like Teddy
He had
Bridgewater.
the Ted Bridgewater, yeah. Where it was like,
actually,
I didn't know you could die from that stuff.
No, here's what happened to him. It was a compound fracture.
Yeah.
And bacteria got into his leg, and the infection literally he almost lost his leg. Because
Wasn't
of
it
infection.
something other than that too,
Whereas
where
Teddy,
like the nerves
the vein,
and stuff?
Yeah,
like
that was more Bridgewater, and then the tight end for Chicago, Miller, who literally almost.
So that
bled
was
to death.
Bridgewater.
Yeah, that was Bridgewater.
But Alex Smith was more bacteria
Alex
infection.
Smith was different. I don't think it was ever a risk of like bleeding out because of the.
Because I remember Bridgewater had something to do with like the nerves and the veins collapsing or doing something.
And we
I
talked
didn't know
about
that.
him earlier, Le'Veon Bell. Like he went the holdout route.
Yeah.
And it's basically ended his career. And then you have a guy like Dak who ends up playing, gets injured, and you have no idea like what that's going to mean for his
But then
long-term.
the flip side is, do you sell out too early? You know, do you sell your property in its infancy to Yahoo?
Well,
and then,
you know who didn't do that? was Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins played under 2 or 3 franchise tags.
Yeah.
And then he bet on himself and went into free
Yeah.
agency and got.
So basically, you don't know the answer. And one of the things.
Here's what you don't. Here's the caveat is health. An injury is what disrupts all, and that's why guys want to lock in guaranteed money long term.
But here's something about decision making that Gary Vaynerchuk talks a lot about, where people go, well, I want to do this or I want to do that, and what happens if I do this? What could have happened over here? And he just says, you don't know, so to stop worrying about it, make your decision, go, and the decision's been made.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a great thing to remember is like make the best decision you can.
Yep.
And then you'll never know what happened because he goes like,
"Don't live it or regret."
Well, not even that. I'm gonna butcher his. I'm not even gonna try to do his story because I don't remember it. But he said like, what if you decided to go to one school over another, and because you went to that school, you met the right people, you were making millions of dollars a year, and then if you would have went to other school, like some girl would have broke up with you, and then. So it discouraged you, and now you're making $50,000 a year. But the first option, where you're making $1 million a year, you were in the World Trade Towers on 9/11. You don't know the answer, so don't worry about it.
Right.
Don't worry about it. And I do that a lot, where I'm like, I just got to stop worrying about what could have happened because I could have just been hit by a bus by making the right decision.
To bring the spiritual dynamic into it, Jesus actually referred to that when he said, "Don't worry about tomorrow. Today's trouble is sufficient for itself." In other words, I have enough to do today, and I think part of what he's saying is like what I need to deal with tomorrow's problem I'll only be prepared for it if I actually focus on today. If I live in the present and actually do what I'm called to do today, I might be ready. But if I try to like think about what I'm gonna need to know in my business 2 years from now, I'm gonna miss everything between now and then.
It's okay to plan, but
planning's
it's a
different.
loose plan.
Here's what worrying does. I think worrying it robs you in the present.
Yeah.
And whereas planning actually is a present action that's helping the future. Where worrying is just, it's like being inactive in the present, thinking it's going to help in the future.
So what I do is I have a few long-term goals, and they're just very very much rough concepts. Like, okay, I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that. I don't try to make decisions to reach that goal, but it's there.
Right.
And so maybe that's what I'm going towards, but if an opportunity comes up somewhere else, I'll go down that avenue.
Yep.
I do want to, I didn't think we were going to get into religion this quick, but, and you're probably going to take up 99% of the religious, like specifically religion, verbiage, because I don't know anything about religion, but I did read the Bhagavad Gita. And, basically I was playing Civilization 4, and there was that Oppenheimer quote, for I am death, but when the atomic bomb was tested.
Okay.
And so I'm playing Civ. I see the quote. I see what the quote was attributed to. I go to the bookstore and said, "This is how much of a nerd I am." I go, I want to get the I had no idea how to say it.
I want to read the
rest of this.
And
she
goes,
"Oh, it's in religion." I'm like, "What?" It just sounded like a cool action movie.
I don't know anything about it. Explain a little bit about the book.
So the book is a Hindu religious text.
Okay.
It's a big poem, and it's basically
like a proverb type.
Yeah, but it's long. It's a long ass poem.
But they're like standalone, like nuggets of
it's
wisdom,
it's a story, right? And basically, it's if I remember correctly, it was 15 years ago I read it. But a man is going to battle with a neighboring territory. He sees, they're meeting up with their horses and everything. Mm-hmm. They're about to have a battle on a field of battle. And he can see across the battlefield that he's got friends and family members, because these are probably more tribes than nations. And he starts to think that maybe he shouldn't fight. And maybe it would be wrong to fight. Maybe it would be wrong to kill the other side.
Kind of questions his moral obligation.
And so what happens is God appears. I'm just going to use my Catholic Christian terminology for a Hindu text. But one of the parts that I found a lot of parts in that text that made a lot of sense to me. And one of them was because a lot of I do the Joe Rogan thing. I am not an expert in theology. I don't know anything about Hinduism. I read one text twice 15 years ago. So
Nice.
but it's a lot about detaching from decision making to results. So basically, you do the right thing, the result doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so one of the parts in there is where God says, you're a soldier. It's your job to go to battle. I've already decided who's going to live and die. I've already decided who's going to win the battle. I've already decided all of this. You're just an implement. You're supposed to do what you're supposed to do and just be done. And I think that kind of ties back into what you said was like.
Well, and I think
we're in about.
But this is
what's going to happen.
This is a huge point, regardless of where someone rests spiritually. And like, I would actually challenge the thought that anyone has that they don't care about or have theology.
Yeah.
Theology is the study of God, and everyone's worldview has something driving where it's gaining its value, its truth from. And that may be self, that may be
ethics,
may be the God of the Bible, it may be the creator of the world, it may be, whatever it is. But this is a huge point, is so often we make assumptions about our decisions being right or wrong based on the results, and it's short-sighted and it's wrong. Just like you've been talking about, even in business, is like me making a decision based on what in the present moment is going to make more money for me isn't always good. Like, for example, if we think about our journey and our path, some of this we talked about last week, we don't have it all on here, but like the decision for you to go, I'm going to sell this risk game and I'm going to build this skill of selling something on eBay. Like, in that moment, there were other jobs that for that next hour would have paid you more.
I could have got a job at a gas station.
Sure, right? Mean, and so, like, but it led you down a path that is where ultimately there was more satisfaction, fulfillment, whatever it is for you.
How about this? Maybe if I got a job at a gas station, I'd be a regional manager right now, making 140, be just perfectly happy. Yeah, but maybe I wouldn't be here right now, so I don't know.
Yeah, and you don't. And part of it is like, and this is the point of not drawing success from results, is like one of the things to the Bible, which is the place where I draw my worldview on truth and reality and God. Like, the Bible says love never fails. And so that tells me my motivation for my action determines failure and success, not the result. So like, you can do something with a motive to bless someone for their betterment, and it brings you no gain, and you actually succeeded.
Correct.
And so that's, I think, an important reality, even in business. And to the point of that lady who brought in that collection, full circle, is like,
you're trying to do the right thing.
I can't tell you how many times I've actually said this, John, to numerous customers. I remember telling this couple one time, I said, for me as a Christian, a follower of Jesus, for me, it's far more important to do the right thing than to make money. Because Jesus even says, what is a profit to gain the world and lose your soul? I don't want to gain it all and then realize I didn't gain anything in gaining it all. And so I told this couple that, and they actually said, they came back like couple weeks later, I think, and they said, what you told us about your motivation for that is the reason we want to sell our cards to you. Yeah. And we want you to send our cards into grading. Sure. And I wasn't doing it for like any alternative. I was being honest with them. This is where we're at as a business. And I think
that's important. This isn't a trick.
No, it's
you're not advocating like, I tell people stuff.
And I'll be honest, I've even gone all the way where there was a time where we had some graded cards where the box got mixed up as to whose card was where. Oh, right. And there was two of the same cards in the order. One got a 9, one got a 10. I couldn't determine whose was either the shops or the customers. I gave the customer the 10.
No, I do that a lot.
Every time the customer get because for me, like, we're in this thing long term, and I've also realized like the business is it's about relationships. You know, it's about building
and reputation.
It's about reputation. It's about integrity. It's about honesty and like trust. All those things are. Like, what makes someone successful in the short term? Like, someone could be dishonest, and I always say, tell the guys this. In the card world, this happens all the time. Someone gets over on someone one time. Yeah. And guess what? They get a reputation. No one ever sells stuff.
Well, how about that? Just that one guy is not going to buy or sell from you. You're like, sour. Yeah. I mean, we talked about that in the first podcast about why I don't want people massively overpaying for stuff on K-Bet.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's just like, it's a one-time gig, and we're losing. I'm greedy the right way. I want all your money. I want all your money forever.
Well, and it's hard because, and this is true, like and to talk about the wax side and like opening packs. When we say wax, we're referring to like new products. Right. Like, there's definitely a gambling side in that people can kind of get compulsive in.
Entertainment.
And I've regularly encouraged people, like, you know what? Back off a little bit, sell some cards, get some money back, so it's more sustainable long term. Because I've seen a lot of guys come in, go crazy for 2 months and then they overdid it
Yeah.
and it's not sustainable. And I'd rather have them in the hobby enjoying it long term.
Absolutely. And but by the way, you're greedy the right way. You want all their money forever. You don't want
I
that
don't know if I'd
little
actually even
2
say
month.
that. I don't even know if I'd say I want all their money.
Well, but
forever.
you get what I'm saying when
Yeah.
I mean that. I mean,
Yeah.
I got a long-term customer for 20 years
I want-
versus
yes, I want-
2 months
I want your-
blast. I don't mean,
Yeah. I
okay.
want your I want your business
for for as long as you're in
But I
here.
also want it to be a how do I put that? I regularly have encouraged people to not spend money. Like a bartender. I feel like a bartender
Yeah.
sometimes. We've
No,
talked
yeah.
about this.
I've done that.
Like, you shouldn't be spending the money that you can't afford to spend on cards. Like,
Well,
and
I've had
that's true of
customers
anything
say,
in life,
"Oh
you know?
man, I probably only got like $200 left. How much is that?" And I'm like, "Don't buy it."
Yeah, don't
And
buy
they'll
it.
say, "Well, why not?and because it's a weird thing for me
Well,
to say.
and to be
I'm
honest,
like, well,
yeah.
you just told me you only had 20
Well,
bucks.
the problem
Don't-
is, and we have a lot of people, and this is a question. I want to ask you this question.
I'm not
Actually, I'm
doing
going to ask you, what's your moral obligation as a business owner when you have someone who you know is like, let's say, maxing out their credit?
you have
and they
no
don't have-
moral obligation.
Yeah.
But it's about so you have no. I don't think you have any actual moral, ethical obligation to tell someone to stop buying
Like,
something.
what's your approach to that scenario?
But how are you going to feel about yourself if you incurred it?
Right.
And that's the question.
Yes.
I don't. If somebody said, "Yeah, man, he was just on tilt, and I kept feeding him, and that was his decision," I'm a libertarian. People do what they want to do. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I don't, and I don't think.
but how do you feel about yourself at the end of the day? Do you feel like you did a good thing that day?
Right.
And if you got to live with the fact that you encouraged someone to do something extremely unhealthy,
Right.
what is that going to do to your brain?
Right.
And then is that going to make you more or less productive
Which, by the
next
way,
day? Probably
side point,
less.
this is actually what's motivated me to learn how to count cards,
Oh,
to play blackjack, to specifically
Let's
take
talk about
money
that.
from casinos, because casinos literally do that exact thing. Do you realize, John?
Love it.
Like we've talked about me going to play poker. Like I had somebody ask me today. They're like, "Oh, you do you gamble?" And I literally told them, I said, "I don't gamble."
right.
Because I'm going to define gamble versus invest. I invest. I buy and sell equity.
Open a box cards is gambling.
I open and I buy and sell equity. I don't play a game where I can't have an edge.
Right.
So gambling is based on luck and chance.
Wow.
Investing is based on
Lottery.
logic, math, and
Probability.
probability. Like you can mathematically determine long term this is going to be a winning. And so you know what that does though too when you're doing that. Like I don't get emotional in the moment if I lose a blackjack hand because if
Right.
I'm playing perfect basic strategy and I'm counting cards. Long term, I'm going to win. I'm going to win.
Yeah.
I'm a
Well,
5%
it's like-
favorite. Long term,
It's
The
like
longer I
opening. It's like opening Bowman Draft, and which not anymore, but
Yeah.
used to. You could just open
Yep.
5 cases of Bowman Draft,
Yep.
sort it out by player,
Yep.
and then
make money.
just you have to be patient,
Yep.
and you got to give it. It's a 5-year window for every product, if not a little longer. And then as people pop, you sell them, you make money. It's not
and
gambling
so, like,
at
for
that
me,
point.
like I'm not afraid of spending money. Like today, I actually got a card in front of me here that I was showing John right when I came in. It's a 2013 Upper Deck Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson dual autograph. Pretty cool card, huh? Number to 23.
Number to 23.
So the thing about Michael Jordan, the reason I'm spending money on these is one of the things people don't realize. You're listening, you might think like, well, okay, they're talking about new boxes. There's new basketball boxes coming out every year.
Correct.
Michael Jordan hasn't had an autograph come out of a pack other than Goodwin Champions, and I think there was a couple autographs in the Cup the last couple of years because he has
That's right.
because he has an exclusive agreement with Upper Deck and they don't have the NBA license. He hasn't had an autograph come out, I think, since 2014. So what's happened is you have the price of these boxes going up. Like you could buy a $1,000 box and gamble of getting a $10,000 ion. I'd rather buy this when I know there's a massive shortage of Jordan autographs.
Correct.
And know that like there's no way as box prices go up that this card doesn't go
And
up.
not only that, if Upper Deck gets the license, there's going to be a higher value put on the older autographs versus the
sure.
newer autographs. That always happens that way.
It always will be. And like this is an on-card autograph, so he actually
Hey, got
signs.
Magic.
It's serial
Tandem.
numbered. Now, the one reason it's not worth a significant amount more is he's actually in his North Carolina
Right.
jersey. It's a collegiate card.
It's a nice
which-
card, though.
I mean, if it was Bull, I think a collegiate one's better than the Wizards, not as good as the Bulls. Right now, Bulls autos are
Correct.
Like you can't even get a Jordan Bulls auto under $5,000 on card.
Oh, wow.
At all. Like there's hardly anything.
I don't live in that world, so I don't know.
So anyway, that's my investment, and like I don't view this as gambling because I
Right.
think I now there's risk.
Yeah.
So there, investing has risk.
Absolutely.
So that's how it's similar to gambling, but it's different. Like,
well, no, gambling is just chance.
yes,
It's just
there's
pure
a ton of
chance.
risk.
There's pure chance. There's no way.
Yep.
There's no way to analyze the situation. You're
Yep.
either going to win or you're going to lose.
There's no way to look at the market data and like understand trends.
Stocks are chance if you're throwing a dart at a board, maybe.
Yeah. But if you're understanding anything about businesses and even stock pricing and seeing the movement, like, and so like my advice,
or reading the company synopsis. The second you read the synopsis of what the company sells, you're at a better edge than just
for sure
picking out.
And I'm all for like I'll open packs of cards and I'll grade cards out of them, and I think it's still an enjoyable part of the hobby for me. But like I always tell guys, like the place to make money, especially on eBay, is you have so many people opening boxes. Those singles need to be bought. Like buying ungraded singles and then grading them. I think that's
especially if you're targeting undervalued rookies and even overvalued rookies, but they're second-year cards.
Well, let me ask you this right now: who do you think? I just had a text thread with some buddies who are getting into sports cards, and they're business guys. Some of them are poker guys, and they asked me, "Who do you think right now in the NFL, position player, either quarterback, wide receiver, running back, is still under the radar, or I'm not saying undervalued because I think there's some guys that are undervalued, but like you don't hear them being talked about, and you think like Chase Claypool. Can you imagine like if?
Oh right, well that we don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
You're talking about like who is the next Russell Wilson versus last year,
or who's got the ability to be Lamar Jackson from a couple years ago. Like Lamar played his first year and wasn't good.
The name that pops to my mind is Matt Ryan.
Really?
But the Russell Wilson approach, not the.
Okay.
Because I think Matt Ryan, and I'd have to look it up, and maybe I'm off, but I'm pretty sure if you look at his career numbers, they're significant, and
they're just so bad this year.
So so
that's a good time to buy.
Well, right. So we're talking about a buying opportunity.
So a buying opportunity is different than being under the radar. But
but he's under the radar too, right?
Sure.
And so
he was an MVP.
So the question is, and if they're playing so bad, then he's way under the radar.
Sure.
But the question is, do you think that he's going to win a Super Bowl before he retires? If he wins a Super Bowl before he retires, you're golden.
Sure.
And the Falcons seem to always be building
since they lost that game to the Patriots, they're diseased. They're diseased, dude. Like they I don't think they've mentally overcome the hurdle.
Maybe not.
Absolute meltdown.
But I'll tell you a baseball one, and I said this to everybody.
And I want to tell you my basketball buys.
I'm going to tell you my baseball. My baseball one's Freddie Freeman. All day, Freddie Freeman. I've been saying it for
You're not talking about prospects. You're talking about guys.
No, I'm talking about guys who have a certain level of established record.
Yep.
Who look, and you look at their age, and you look at what they've done, and you look at like for Freddie Freeman, you're talking about
I thought Freddie Freeman might be a Hall of Famer. I looked at his numbers; they're way worse than I thought.
No, but here's the thing. From 30 to like 36, that's where all the power comes in.
Sure. He only has like 200 home runs.
No, that's what I'm saying. The next 5 years, he might have another 200 home runs.
Sure. You know who my guy is?
And that's happened many times
with
guys
guy
like that.
Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt, believe it or not, has the second highest WAR in the last 3 years behind Mike Trout.
And I can see him sign with the Yankees.
And Paul Goldschmidt's card value is like there's literally 100 guys higher.
Yes.
And yet, but part of you hit on a good point. The city he plays in. Now he got moved from Arizona to St. Louis. So now, but St. Louis has always been weird. Like Pujols, I guess he sold in St. Louis. By the way, did you see?
St. Louis is a baseball town.
I just looked up today because I just got two back. Albert Pujols' value has gone up 400% since I had like the last graded. We sold a PSA 10 tops. I think they were like 500. I just looked them up. They're 2,500 right now.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Wow. Oh, I can. It seemed like it was undervalued.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Time.
This is a fun
Pujols would have been a good one.
For everyone out there, too. Think about this one. Who are the only 4 players in history, and Albert Pujols is one of them.
God. I'm not going to remember again.
With 3,000 hits and over 600 home runs.
All right. You've asked me this 3 times and never get it right.
You should get it now.
Pujols, A-Rod. What is that? 3,000 and what?
600 home runs.
And 600. Pujols, A-Rod. Not Griffey because he didn't have 3,000.
The other 2 are vintage. Pre 70.
I never get it. For Christ's sake.
Willie Mays.
Willie Mays, okay.
And Hank Aaron.
Hank Aaron, because nobody ever thinks he hit 3,000.
And to the point, the reason I bring that up, card related, Alex Rodriguez has
Yes.
so much potential.
Yes.
Alex Rodriguez, without the steroid controversy, you could easily argue is top 3 all time.
I'll put it this way too.
My top 3 would be Bonds,
Uh-huh.
Babe Ruth,
Uh-huh.
Alex Rodriguez.
Well, I'll tell you something about Alex Rodriguez. He's a social media personality as well. And he has
Exactly.
not escaped
Yes.
to the nothingness. He's out there.
And he's on
and-
Shark Tank. He's
Oh,
an
yeah, Shark Tank. I
entrepreneur.
didn't think of that.
He's owns a lot of businesses.
They're-
He's
they're
very
the-
active on social media. I think
That's
actually
helpful.
Gary Vee actually did an interview with him. I want
Yeah.
to say
He did.
not too long ago. And
About a year ago, maybe.
so I know he
saw
owns
that
a
one.
bunch of like fitness clubs and he does a lot of health related stuff. So
But
he's
him
active.
being out and about and his name always being
Yep.
put up, that's going to be good long term.
And even I just saw, was it MLB Tonight after one of the playoff games? It's him, Big Papi, and Frank Thomas are the broadcasters. They're the analysts.
No, I always, every time I think of David Ortiz now, I think of the Saturday Night Live impression of him. It's just hilarious.
Big Papi's.
It's like when he's always talking about what he's about to eat.
David Ortiz,
It makes me
like,
smile.
If you think about all the players that have left Minnesota and been
Oh,
successful
geez.
other places, like think about the all-time lineup you could build.
Moss, Garnett,
Well, just Garnett and
Papi.
Ortiz, we literally just shipped Boston titles. Just shipped them
Emmett
titles.
Smith.
Wow.
Emmett Smith.
I'm
They
saying
use
guys-
our
yeah,
no, but I'm
our
saying they
picks,
use
yeah,
our
yeah,
pick.
yeah, we
I'm
built
sorry,
the-
Emmett Smith and the entire Cowboys offensive line.
Yeah, we built that
essentially.
dynasty. Yeah, the Herschel Walker
Christ's
trade.
sake.
That was a fun one.
I do have.
But even like Chauncey Billups, like left and won one
Oh,
in
fair
Detroit.
enough. Yeah,
and,
yeah.
No, I mean there was.
He wasn't
Tons of
leading
points.
that team to the championship though.
Yeah, he was the MVP, I think.
Well, okay.
Hey, I want to do a fun game. We'll do this maybe another time, 2 more. I'm going to throw out a player's name. You tell me his nickname.
All right.
Chauncey Billups. Do you know his nickname?
No, I won't know nicknames for basketball.
One of the greatest nicknames in basketball, Mr. Big Shot.
Mr. Big Shot.
He's hit so many big shots. Just
Sure.
Mr. Big Shot. What's your nickname, Mr. Big
All
Shot?
right, I got a real quick little market thing, and it doesn't mean a whole lot, but it might be something people are overlooking if they have old 90s stuff. 1995 Summit Nth Degree parallels for baseball,
Yep.
and I assume for football. I just didn't have any football.
Yep.
They sell really well.
Yep.
I was very surprised
It's a
by that.
parallel out of Emotion, right?
No, out of Score Summit, and the Nth,
Oh, yeah.
Nth
Okay, Score
Degree.
Summit. I was trying to think
It's
of
a really shiny
Yep,
one.
Yep.
And I had a big batch of them.
It reminds you of the Pinnacle Museum and Artist Proofs.
Yeah,
Like,
but
that
I would
was the
argue they
same
look
era.
even nicer, even
Oh,
as
no,
much
they
as I
look-
like the the museum collection.
Yeah, but I mean I'm trying to think.
But so
Is
here's
there
the
a
thing.
level of Nth Degree or is it
No,
only
just
one?
one. One in
yep.
4 packs. They were really easy to get,
Okay.
and they're just. It's not that they're worth all that much. They just keep selling.
Yep.
And so I'm sending some off to be graded. I got like 3 Griffies and a couple others.
Yep.
And when I get them back, I just like raw. They're selling really well.
Yeah.
So just like one of those tidbits,
Well,
like if
part of
you
it
got
is-
a
yeah.
Griffey or you got a
Jeter.
Ripken or whatever, or Jeter, don't think that that's like, oh, it's a whatever parallel. It is a whatever parallel.
Yeah.
But I think it looks so awesome. Everybody likes them.
Well, and the other thing is like I think you hit on a good point too. Is like recognizing. Sometimes I send cards to grade because there just hasn't been any graded yet.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm
Very
guessing-
low pop on all
I'm
that.
trying to make a guess on the trend of like, wait, everyone's grading Pinnacle Artist Proofs. No one's grading the Score Gold Rush or some other parallel.
No, I
in
think
that
score.
era.
I think Nth Degree Score Summit's one of those things. I've sold
What's the?
80 of them.
What do you think the print run? Like,
Kind of high. I asked Steve. Steve was over here earlier because Steve will come up in every podcast.
what up, Steve?
What up, Steve? So he was over here, and I asked him about that because I wrote it down because I was like, oh, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And I said, was it? Do you remember? Because we remember buying it. We were 16 or 17.
Yeah.
And he's like, nah, you could get them at gas stations. I mean, those boxes were at gas stations. They were at Target. They were at the hobby show. And then I'm thinking, like, I wonder if maybe it was a big wide push
Sure.
for a short period of time. Because then I went into the almanac, and it's 1 in 4 packs. So
Yes, there's a lot of them.
I think.
So they're only.
But
hold
I don't
on.
see them a
How
lot
many-
when you're
how
buying
many-
collections.
How many cards per pack?
Well, there were 6, so probably 5.
So 1 in 20.
Yeah. But it takes 800 packs to get any one card.
Well, and that's the way.
And
if
that
you-
was an
if you
expensive
notice
pack.
on eBay, a lot of times someone will list a card, in how many packs it would take to get that one card.
I find that a little.
Which is a little exaggerated because let's say you have an insert set of like the Jordan hot numbers or something.
Yeah.
It's like the set's 20. And so you get one in every, but then you have to multiply it by 20.
Right.
So it makes it seem, but the truth is,
not wrong.
It's that rare to get that one player.
The flaw in that thinking is that implies that I got nothing else in those packs.
Right.
That's the only card I got. I mean, that's just not true.
Right.
Okay, so I got another one for you.
Yep.
This is something I want to talk about last podcast we didn't get to, which is good because we don't have a record of it.
Right.
So a friend of yours,
Yes.
who you referred to me, Ben, he had told me about buying some Lucas.
Yeah.
And now we're like 3 weeks removed from this conversation, so I hope I don't ruin it. But I think I think I'll get the premise relatively okay.
Sure.
So I think he had 3 Luka cards.
Yeah.
One was a big card, a couple thousand maybe.
Like an autograph, I think.
Yeah, and then there was 2 other Lukas that were hundreds, like real good. He's into them dirt cheap.
Relative, right.
He bought them.
Bought it back in 2018.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean,
or pulled them or whatever. Yeah.
I think he said he bought them, but I don't think it's relevant. So his cost basis is very low.
Yeah.
And so we were just kind of chatting, and I even asked him if we could talk about the podcast.
Oh, I know what we're talking about. We're going to talk about lowering your cost base.
Yeah, and so he said he's just kind of hemming and hawing over like, well, what if I sell too early and then he goes astronomical? What if I hold and he gets injured or he never performed? And so my advice after some kind of debating was, why not sell the 2 lower end cards, get all your money back, make money, keep the big card? Because if he completely crashes, you've already made money.
Right.
I mean, you're not out.
Yep.
But if he takes off, you're not really going to be worried about those 2 little cards. You're going to be happy you have a $1.64 million Luka.
Right.
I'm being facetious here. Maybe not.
Right.
And then you're going to be like, I don't care about those 2 other ones that were worth $25,000.
Right.
I got the $1 million one. I'm being silly. Maybe, depending what happens. I'm just kind of curious. Do you think is that the route you would take as a collector?
Yeah, I like that option. We talked about this about stocks.
Because you had talked to him about those cards.
Well, so here's what will happen in stocks. For those of you guys who do stocks, let's say I own 100 shares of Apple. For those of you who know what a stock option is, an option is the right to buy or sell a certain stock by a certain date at a certain price. So let's say I own 100 shares of Apple at $100. I want Apple to go up because I'm buying it thinking it's going up. I'm buying it with a bullish assumption. As that stock, let's say that stock stays even and it's bouncing between 105 and 95. One of the ways I lower my cost basis is I sell a call above the share price. So let's say I sell a call at 120. That means I'm selling the right for someone else to buy from me 100 shares of stock at $120. I don't really care because if the stock moves up to 120, my 100 went up, right?
And do you get a payment for that call?
You get a payment. It's called you collect premium. It's
Okay.
like selling a lottery ticket.
So if it went to 170, obviously he's going to strike that.
Then I'm going to sell him at 120. But I bought it at 100, so I'm going to make $20 a share.
Right.
But now if it goes to 170, he's going to turn around and sell it.
He's definitely going to buy it.
And he's going to make that 30, right? So it's a way of buying the rights to a share without having to have the capital to buy them all.
And have
now,
a very small
here's the beauty
investment.
of it. So if I sell that option, let's say I collect $200. Well, guess what happens? If that stock doesn't go to 120,
he's not going to buy
I just
it.
collected 200, which means now my cost on those 100 on that share it's now down to 98. I just took $2 a share off. And I could do that, and I could do it the next week at 125. Let's say the stock moved up to 110, I could keep doing that. I keep selling calls against my shares.
Correct.
To the point where literally my cost basis is 0. Then, like you're saying with Ben, you're not really risking anything.
Right.
You're risking your potential gain.
Correct.
But you don't actually have a financial loss if it literally went to 0. Now, the difference with stocks and cards are the same way. They can't go below 0.
Right.
So you know your loss. Your
Right.
loss is I put in 100.
You can't be sued for
I
how
can't
bad
owe-
Luka plays.
Exactly. I can't owe more than what I paid.
Right.
So if you lower your cost basis, your risk, it's a free roll essentially.
Right.
And
that's how I said. I said that way you make the money,
Yep.
you get the return, but then you're going to have zero regret if he
Yep.
takes off because you're
Yep.
just not going to care about the two small
And I
cards.
think you're right about the big card.
Versus
you-
the opposite. You
well,
could sell the big card
Yep.
and then just
Well,
if
I
he
think-
takes off, then.
But I think the big card has the more potential to be exponentially more
Right.
valuable. So I think
there's that too.
I think I would go the route of selling. And here's what a lot of people do. I actually know a ton of our customers who will get a graded order back. Let's say they send 20 cards. They'll sell all the 9s.
Yeah.
And the 9s will recoup all their money for their grading fees and a
And
bunch
pay
of their
for some of the
cost
cards.
and pay for some of the cards, and then they'll hold on to their 10s. And
Yeah.
that's essentially what they're doing, is because the demand in collecting is exponentially weighted towards 10s.
Yeah, and
not
they're
9s.
and
But
they're
still
they're
valuable 9s.
limiting their regret too. It's
Yep.
like I talk about the Disney the Marvel stock I bought $5 a share
Right.
and sold at like $8.75 was my very first transaction, and I thought I was the smartest person in the world, and then Disney bought them for $30 a share, and I think 0.25 Disney stock. So. Not
those days
regret.
Those days are painful to go do the math.
Yeah.
I mean, I owned Apple, like it split twice since I owned it at like $75.
Lord.
I just don't.
All right, I got one more.
Yep.
Um,
We'll wrap it.
So, LeBron wins his third championship.
Fourth.
Fourth?
Fourth.
He had three, he won his fourth.
Get it right. Just kidding. Come on, John.
Whatever. What, am I supposed to be the expert at sports and stuff?
It's
Is
like you sell sports cards for a living or something.
Well, I don't have any LeBrons in here because the Beckett order doesn't come back. Anyway, so apparently prices have not taken off.
Nope.
And so my question to you, what your opinion of it is, and I just did a couple options. One, he's been very vocal and maybe turning off some people
For sure.
politically.
Yep.
And then, it's like it doesn't take that many people to decide maybe they don't want to buy a card of his to be depressed.
Yep.
That might be one option. The other option is that as someone who took the Lakers versus the field in some prop bets,
Yes.
did
very
we
well.
price in the victory before he won, and then that meant that had he lost, prices would have fell?
Yeah, to answer both those questions, I think both play a big part, and I'm not sure which one's heavier.
I think
but
the second one's heavier.
I think the second one's heavier too. So if I look back, March 15th, I think it was March 15th, I was driving to Chicago for a show the day the governor of Illinois issued a no gathering over 100, and literally like within a week, the Minnesota schools were shut down.
Yes.
So this was like this was the brink of like, what are we going into right now? This whole social distancing, like everything. And I remember thinking, I literally called a dealer from North Dakota who was coming, and I was like, can you believe the prices on cards right now?
Right.
And LeBron's prices were Luka and LeBron, I would say, were the two guys where I was blown away at. Like
They were just jumping.
they were literally like going 100% every couple weeks.
Right.
And I thought to myself, a little correction would be helpful because this isn't sustainable.
No.
And we had that initial dip during COVID. And then I think we recovered so much. And I think you're right. I think the market realized this is LeBron's year.
He was going to win.
And he was going to
The
win.
assumption was
Yep.
Lakers are going to win.
And you saw enough. Right now, the market in sports cards is there's so many more people in it that there's way more prospecting.
Yes.
There's way more early moves on cards.
Yeah.
You know who I saw it on this season prior to the football season starting? I saw all the starting quarterbacks starting to get bought. Like,
Well, how about this?
Cam
All the
Newton.
running backs were getting bought.
oh yeah, like
Leonard Fournette.
DK Metcalf. I mean, all those guys. Like
Well, how about Leonard Fournette? Joe Mixon was taken
David
off.
Johnson, even like, hey, he's gonna be in a
David,
good place,
David Johnson. Cooper Kupp
Yep.
went crazy.
And so you had people going, guess what?
But everybody was doing every player.
Well, but here's what people are doing. They're going, in 2 months, there's not going to be any other sports being played. Like, the NBA
Yeah.
season hasn't set a start date.
I think it'll be after January.
It'll probably be
1st.
after January. So once the World Series is done, the NFL is going to be front and
The
center
only thing.
until all those seasons start.
'Cause
So
normally, when does basketball season start?
October? It'd be like right now. Like they'd be
Okay.
starting preseason probably. Yep.
Okay.
So we're going to be – it's going to be like the normal ebb and flow of the season, off season within sports cards is usually really significant. I think it's going to be even different, and there's going to be a new dynamic of it now with COVID having kind of changed the seasons. But I also think LeBron. I've had a lot of people tell me they haven't watched because of LeBron being outspoken in a way that they felt like has been
disingenuous,
or maybe insensitive, or maybe just too. I think one of the things people liked about Jordan, the famous quote from Final The Last Dance was when they asked him why he wouldn't back a political candidate. He said, Republicans buy shoes too. Now, is that a right motive for him? Like if he actually had a conviction that he wouldn't share because
maybe he very well didn't have
business,
one,
or maybe he just didn't have one that he was strong enough against.
It was just gonna say it just
because I respect someone who disagrees with me, but they're passionately disagreeing. Like that's fine. Now I think there's a place where you start ostracizing people and offending them unnecessarily.
Well, the other thing too is I think to your average person, regardless of position.
Yep.
And so now I'm particularly active in politics. Or at least I was. I'm less so now. And some of that is passion for history, passion for philosophy, passion for ethics, and then that kind of flows into politics.
Yep.
And so I'm a libertarian, and I've done a lot of research on what that means and what do I think about that stuff, right? So, I think what you have though is not really the position, but that you have people who are millionaire athletes, and it's not that they're millionaires, it's not that they're athletes, it's that their whole life has been consumed since the age of 9 to be the best at this sport.
Yep.
I know you don't know jack about this subject.
Yeah.
Because how could you?
Right.
Maybe there's a couple that are like uniquely intelligent and athletically gifted.
Right.
But how could you possibly reach the pinnacle of athletics and then go, oh, by the whole time I was an expert on politics and morality and philosophy. And wait. And then, okay, that's fine. Maybe there are a couple, but then it's like 45% of them are like this.
Yeah. Well,
I doubt it.
And here's my issue.
I think that's the problem.
But I'll probably take a different stance on this than some people. I know some people haven't watched, and they have the right to do this. They haven't watched the NFL. They haven't watched the NBA because they're like, hey, this is my protest against some of the stuff I disagree with. To me, it's the opposite. I watch sports to escape some of those things. And the reality is I've never watched a sporting event because I wasn't watching it because I agreed with the political views of the players, coaches, referees, or theological views. Like, that's never the reason. Now, there may be somebody I'm a fan of personally that I share a conviction. Like Kirk Cousins actually preached at our church this year.
Oh, cool.
So, I mean,
so maybe you might pick up a Kirk Cousins card.
Well, I might be a fan of Kirk Cousins, but like when I go watch the NBA Finals, I'm not watching it actively thinking, yeah, I agree with these guys' worldview on
right. Well, now in cards that does come up because who's that Steely lineman?
Villanueva.
Yeah, so Villanueva, I guarantee you there are people in the card hobby buying Villanueva's cards.
Yep.
Because of that.
Hey, it's no different.
That is a thing.
It's no different than Tim Tebow. He's very polarizing.
Right. Tebow
is super popular. I still sell
now,
Tebow
there are
cards.
people buying LeBron because of his political position.
For sure.
But the question is he turning off more? And not that he gives a flying crap about the prices of his cards, although he owns a couple of big ones apparently.
Does he?
Yeah, he owns 2 of the 25 that went up for auction.
Wow.
So somebody posted the auction price. Somebody posted on Twitter or whatever, and then the line under say, "I got a couple of these at home" or something to that effect. And then you look at who posted it with LeBron James. He has a couple of them. Nice. So maybe that I doubt it. So he doesn't give a crap. But we're talking about cards, and like a lot of times I'll talk about the impacts of aspects and how it's going to work on collectibles long term and short term.
Sure.
And people want to argue the point. That's not the point. That's not the topic. The topic is what's going to happen to prices.
Yep.
I think it's meaningless as to what your actual position is on
I think LeBron's prices 10 years from now are going to be significantly higher than they are.
Yeah.
Now, I think
in the short term, I think we built it up as if he was going to win. But
I think right now, buying LeBron rookies like for example, I bought a Bowman PSA 9 for like about $650. I think could be the equivalent of buying a Jordan 9 in 1998.
By the way, I just sent
and if you would have bought a Jordan 9 in 98, you would have done 5X.
I just sent a Bowman Gold LeBron for a customer to PSA.
Oh, nice.
Should have that back in
the Bowman.
Oh, how long?
The thicker stock.
Yeah.
Yep.
How long?
It's not
How
numbered.
long is $50 service taken?
Like 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Okay, so $75 service is taking like 3 weeks, and then maybe $50 service might be another week.
Yeah, no, I think those are the same. No,
really?
Those are actually the 50 and the 75.
So you think they're prioritizing them the same?
No. The only difference, actually, if you look on the website,
The
is
value.
You can send a higher value card.
No, I was just kind of curious. Maybe they're kicking the $50
The
back.
turnaround's the same.
Okay, so it's about 3 weeks.
Yeah, about 3 weeks.
All right, cool.
2.5, 3 weeks.
Yeah, he's really excited. He sent him 3 big cards. And he sent in LeBron Bowman Gold rookie. He sent in a Joe Montana like patch auto. It's just a nice card.
Very nice.
And then one other. Peyton Manning auto. Nice. And so it's stuff he's gonna keep.
You don't see Peyton Manning.
It's stuff he's gonna keep.
Peyton
he just wants it
prices have gone up as significant as almost any.
I sold a international, not a refractor, but a Bowman Chrome International for like $25.
Wow. And
I think they're 100 something. I don't want to look anymore because I sold it for $25.
Part of it is, you know what happened, John? People realized, how can someone be paying $500 for Kyler Murray in a 10 and Peyton Manning be worth $300?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense.
And that interstate is like a hard card to pull.
Hard.
I mean, even if it's not a refractor.
I mean, I think buying LeBron right now is equivalent to buying Jordan in 96, 97, 98. He's winning his last couple, but he's not done.
And he was really high in 98 because he just won.
Yeah, Jordan was high, but nothing compared to now.
So, Evan, how long are we in?
140.
Nice.
140. Holy smokes. I'm out of topics. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? Anything?
Nothing that I can think of, but this is fun, man. No, this is good. We covered some of the stuff last week that we covered.
Yeah, that was cool.
It's good.
All right, so Sports Cars Culture Podcast, episode 2.
And I actually want to throw this in for our listeners. If you guys have a topic that you ever request that you want to cover, make a comment below. You're going to see it on Facebook. You're going to see it on YouTube.
Absolutely.
Comment and throw it. Hey, what do you guys think about this? We'd love to maybe feature a Q&A at the end.
Here's the thing. In the shop, I tell my customers that. I'm like, I like talking about this stuff. If you got questions, I got a customer that calls me 3 times a week. Hey, John, I just got this car. What do you think? I'm like, blah, blah, blah. He goes, okay, cool.
Cool. Yeah.
And then,
I just had a guy text me.
I'm not like, how dare you call me? I'm like, that's cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, this is hopefully a benefit for the people hearing. And if they have stuff that they're like, hey, you guys hit this topic, but I want to know more.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be fun too.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just riff on it.
I mean, we'll let them determine. And otherwise, we'll just keep blabbing.
Very cool. Sports Card Culture Podcast, episode 2. I think that went pretty good.
Amen.
Thanks a lot, Clint.
See you guys.
Thank you, Evan. Have a good one, guys.